You really need to focus on the positives, and you really need to accept your situation as well. Because what I see in a lot of my clients is that they really love complaining and they really love blaming the circumstances for what's happening to them. If you won't take action, nothing will happen. And this is what should motivate you.
Elena, how are you?
Yes, I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Pleasure to have you here. So what are we going to be talking about today?
Okay, so today I think we're going to be emphasizing the importance of self-improvement and basically growing your confidence in order to achieve better results in both entrepreneurship and personal life. Because what happens is that, like, I see this very often in my work, is that people with low self-esteem, like, just get caught up in negative feedback loops of inaction and failure. And as a result, they can't achieve the results that they want.
What is your job?
Okay, so I do have an interdisciplinary background, and I started studying psychology. So my major was in psychology. Then I opened up my first consulting business, which was a successful business for 5 years. And it grew up to a wellness center. I then pursued my master's degree in the neuroscience and genetics, and I fell in love with science. So I co-founded a biotech startup after this. And eventually I ended up doing a PhD in stem cell biology. And at the moment, I'm on my final year writing my thesis. And I just launched my third business, which is the Guild of Growth. And I offer one-on-one mentorship for new and aspiring entrepreneurs on business strategy, mindset of success, and confidence growth.
Wow, you are a busy woman. You're a very busy woman.
Yes, I am indeed.
Okay, we're talking about confidence, how self-esteem relates to people's success, both professionally and personally. What are some of the common challenges that you see when you're working with your clients?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, what happens is that when your self-esteem is low, usually you can't even start taking action because of your subconscious blocks and the fact that you think that you're not actually worthy of taking action and improving your situation and, going after the goals that you really want. So it all starts with the feeling of self-worth and the fact that most of people don't actually feel that they're worthy of positive changes in their lives. And the reason behind this is that they actually are not doing anything extraordinary, anything good in order to prove to themselves and their subconscious mind that they are worthy of a positive change. So it all starts with inaction. And I keep on seeing this again and again. And I recently tweeted something along the lines that 9 out of 10 people around you, they're just doing their bare minimum. Okay, so the competition is very, very low. The bar is set very, very low right now. And it's crazy because we live in such an amazing era where the whole planet is connected online and you have access to infinite free resources online in order, to get out there and become financially independent and, become the best version of yourself. You want to lose weight. There is a bunch of tutorials online. You want to make money. There is hundreds of, of ways to make money online nowadays. You just need to actually decide that you want to take action, and then you need to just basically start. And most people don't even start, and it really hurts me. This is the reason why I started the Guild of Growth, because so right now, as I said, I'm on my 4th year of PhD. So I've been in an academic environment for the past 3.5 years. And, we've been talking with friends and, colleagues in academia that have great business ideas, but they have no idea where to start. And they kept on asking me different kind of things. They kept on asking me different tips, how to start, where to find the resources to start, how to, take a business off the ground. And, they literally kept telling me, Elena, okay, you should start a podcast or you should start a Facebook group or something. And then I realized that, yes, I do need to kind of, put this knowledge out there because through both my first business, which was running for 5 years, and my biotech startup. I learned this process of basically imperfect massive action, and that if you won't take action today, nothing will happen, And it's just so simple. And you've probably heard this before, but, not many implement it.
What surprises me is seeing people. So you're talking about some of the other academics that you spend your time with. These people are so competent. They've got so many talents. Absolutely. I'm around tons and tons of people who I look at. I'm like, oh my God, like you're so well educated, wise in a particular discipline, have this, and this. But you're totally correct. If you multiply by 0, and that 0 is no action, then everything that came before hits a very, very hard brick wall. And I love the idea that 9 out of 10 people are doing the bare minimum to get by. Therefore, the bar is set very low. Sadly, I think that you're very right. I can't speak for other countries, but certainly in the UK, there is a lack of agency, of upward mobility, of people's desire to become sovereign individuals, and just do their thing. And this doesn't matter. This isn't me saying like, oh, everybody should become an entrepreneur. Like, this isn't me saying that. It's just me saying that you can take control of your own growth, either personally or professionally, financially, fitness-wise, whatever it might be. You are in control. I think you've hit on a couple of really interesting points there. So you mentioned that you had a process, a framework, a plan. Can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. Can I just comment on what you just said first? Because I think I have a couple of more interesting points there. So you're absolutely right. And I think that this frame of mind is prevalent in most countries today, really. And the other thing is that the academics, so people that have been through an undergrad degree and then they proceed with a master's degree and a PhD, they're all very, very smart. But what happens is that they don't really have this real life experience outside academia. So they're really focused on their science. And truth is that research demands you to be really, really committed and spend a lot of hours in the lab or, doing your literature review, things like this. So they actually don't really know that there is this amazing world out there. And, our world is rapidly changing. And it has it's changed dramatically over the past decade, 15 years ago, there was no YouTube. So there were no resources. And it all starts at a young age. So for instance, our parents, they don't even understand the concept of making money online, and it all starts with school as well, because they don't teach us, financial literacy basically at school. So most of people don't even think about it because no one told them what to think about. They don't know what they don't know.
You never know. You can't know what you don't know. That's a very good point. I wonder how much of a difference the children of our era now, so someone who is, between 0 and 10 in 2020, I wonder how much different their view professionally and personally of the world and how much of a growth mindset and stuff they will have. Because I certainly feel like millennials, which is technically 84 to 96, I think, they were part of such a corner turn, such an inflection point that totally detached their experience from their parents.
Yeah.
That it could happen again. There could be another huge wave of change coming, but something tells me that there probably won't, that I'll probably be able to have more in common with my children's life experiences than my parents do with mine. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is that the turning point for our generation, for the millennial generation, was basically the internet and the fact that, the whole way of living, half of our of our time that we spend awake is probably online now, and especially in the view of the recent events, everyone there is a vast majority of people that is working online now and they're transitioning online, and there will be a bunch of people that will be working on their side hustles and their online incomes right now while being at their 9 to 5. So they won't have this desire to actually go back to their 9 to 5. And I think that what internet really brings is the decentralization of professionalism. And we're getting into this gig economy, and I think that it's here to stay. And everyone will be their own boss, or the vast majority of people will keep on being their own boss in the future. And I think this is what will be present in the next generation as well.
Yeah, I think so. David Perel, one of my favorite bloggers, past Modern Wisdom guest, has this thing where he says, your side hustle has a side hustle, which is this multivariate stream of income world that some people have ventured into. And right now you are seeing those that did have multiple streams of income, perhaps an income from property, perhaps something that was more web-based, perhaps some investments and other bits and pieces. They're the ones who have the most robust financial makeups, and perhaps even an anti-fragile makeup if they've been particularly clever and had foresight. And some people might be making more money right now. I know a ton of people that are making more money on their internet businesses because everyone's spending screen time's probably gone up by 100%, which is crazy. Yeah. So let's get on to your framework. We've got people that are listening. They think, yeah, this sounds great. I'd like to become a sovereign individual with high agency and a bunch of other stuff. But inaction, imposter syndrome, I don't know where to start. Where do we even begin?
Yeah. Okay. So the first step is to recognize that the current system of action that you have in place does not produce the results that you want. Okay. So once you realize this, and once you understand that with your current actions, your trajectory is not taking you where you want to go. Okay. So this is the first step. And the second step would be to define a clear plan of action and actually ask yourself, because what happens today is that everything is Googleable. Okay. So 98% of the information that you need in order to become successful is out there. Okay. Maybe it's even 100%. For most people, it's 100%. Okay. You need to dig a bit, but I'm sure that you'll be able to find the information that you actually need in order to start something and create something from nothing. And in terms of business, what happens is that there are three core aspects that can all be built online nowadays. And first, you need to know what your customers want. And the mistake that most individuals do is that they start working on an idea that they think is really great, and it actually solves a solution. It solves a problem that people have, and it provides a particular solution. But what happens is that they're not really validating it. And nowadays, again, with the social media, you can get so much validation for your idea. You just send out a bunch of questionnaires out there, and you see what happens, and you see what is the product or the service that can be marketed to a thirsty market in order to cover a need and solve a problem. And then what you do is you polish this product or service. And again, now it's easier than ever to create digital products and provide services online, things like this. So once you realize what the customer wants, what the market wants, you can basically move into creating a product or service that is desirable. And then the next step, the third step, is to create a distribution channel. And again, nowadays, it's easier than ever to create a distribution channel. So one example could be a YouTube channel, right, that provides very valuable content. And then, you can monetize this, or a social media account, things like this. But in order to go a bit back into the negative feedback loop and the self-esteem, and how to actually start and how to decide that you are worthy of starting, you really need to focus on the positives, and you really need to accept your situation as well. Because what I see in a lot of my clients is that they really love complaining and they really love blaming the circumstances for what's happening to them. Okay, so in terms of the perspective change, the most important perspective that you need to change is the perspective of yourself, and just focus on the existing resources that you have. This might be a skill that you're honing, or anything that you're passionate about, and then really take it from there and tell yourself, okay, so it is what it is. Yes, I'm unlucky. My parents going through a divorce, or I'm really unhappy in life now. I'm going through a breakup, something like this. But if you won't take action, nothing will happen. And this is what should motivate you, because once you realize, like, look, there are people out there that utilizing like all the online resources I have access to as well. And, it should click. And basically you should realize that, look, it is what it is. And I'll just focus on taking action every single day. And then the second step would be to be your own accountability partner. And I think that this is another kind of perspective that can only lead to positive outcomes, when you realize that you don't need to be disciplined only when you're supervised,
It's interesting at the moment that we have everyone being released from the world of work, right? They no longer have their boss breathing down their neck. They no longer have the structures that disciplined them previously. And to the people who have had to make that nomadic work from home transition, I feel for you, because it took me a decade to work out how to manage myself, and you've just been expected to do it. If the world stopped, everyone's like, right, got to work from home now, and you're like, oh, hang on, what time do I get up? Where do I work from? How do am I supposed to get dressed? When do I have a coffee? When do I go for a break? Have I worked too much? Have I worked too little? It's real challenging. There's a ton of different things that you went through there that I thought was interesting. I like the idea that your current outcomes being an indicative of your current inputs, and that if you're not getting the outcomes that you want, you have to presume that something is going wrong with the inputs. Now, you're right. There are people out there who get head starts, out there who get, what's the opposite of a head start? Whatever that is. A bum start. I don't know. Whatever that is. Whatever the thing is when they go behind, like a disadvantage. There's people that have both of those, but that can't be changed. It comes back to the Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control. What can you control? What can't you control? Just do the things that you can. When it comes to the self-esteem and people blaming circumstance or other bits and pieces, is that just them being able to point the finger at something which isn't their self, or is there something going on here? Something else going on?
It's just the reason that they point the fingers to someone else is that they're not happy with themselves, and for this reason they don't want to bear the responsibility, because they think that they're unworthy of being responsible for their own life. Okay, so it all comes back to this feeling of unworthiness, because what they're currently doing is not producing the results that they want, so they're just basically give up. And this is what separates a winner from a loser, okay? So a winner just keeps on going until he or she wins.
I'm going to guess that you'll be familiar with the learned helplessness study on dogs. Have you heard this? Okay, so this identifies, I think, one of the things that you might be getting at. So it's a very famous study done quite a while ago. And dogs were put in a cage, and the floor was shocked, so it was uncomfortable for the dogs. Shocked the dogs. There was 3 groups. In the first group, the dogs had a little button that they could press, and if they pressed the button, then it went away. In the second group, the dogs had a button that they could press, and if they pressed the button, nothing happened, so they just kept on getting shocked. And then in the third group, if they pressed the button, they didn't get shocked at all. Right? So three different groups of dogs. Roll it forward, second iteration of the study, they're now put into a different cage, different button, same shocks. All 3 sets of dogs are now shocked. So remember that the third set was never shocked in the first place.
Yeah.
First set, who had the button that worked, they go over to the button and they press it. The third set, who were never shocked in the first place, they also go over to the button and they push it. But the second group, who the first time the button didn't do anything, they just curled up on the floor and didn't try to go and press the button, despite the fact that that button worked. So what that was then moved into was a theory of learned helplessness. And that over time, if the world continues to keep on beating you, after a while, you just think, no, this isn't for me. I'm just going to give up. But that's a natural response.
Yeah, it's basically conditioning. So when you're conditioned to certain circumstances, you don't even try and change your circumstances because you think that you don't have control over them. But this is what my message basically was, is that what can give you hope and what can give you the willingness to try something new, to produce some results, is the realization that you're actually the only person that is in control of their lives. And, your situation, sometimes it's hard to change your situation, but like you can change your perspective and you can change what you're getting out of a situation. Okay. So, we have 7 billion people on the planet. And, unfortunately, most of them are conditioned to not take action, perhaps because of their family beliefs or perhaps of the fact that they tried something and it didn't work. But there is this myth of overnight success. And, we see articles about successful entrepreneurs and, there are some misleading titles saying that, like entrepreneur A had an overnight success. And it's never an overnight success. This is what my career taught me as well. I had to iterate. I had to go through a lot of difficulties through my career. And, it's never straightforward. And, after running my business, so I'm originally from Greece. So after running my business, my first business in Greece for 5 years, I moved to the UK to do my master's degree. And, I was a self-funded student. I wasn't working for a year. At some point, my savings ran out. I was in a hard situation. And then after completing my master's, I had different kind of options to get a job or do something else. And then I found this cool biotech startup that was looking for a co-founder. And I knew that I wouldn't get a salary, but it was a priceless experience. I learned so much, and it was definitely worth it. And I was telling about this experience to a friend of mine, and he said something along the lines, "Oh my God, Elena, you were so brave back then, and you took a leap of faith, and you didn't even think about quitting or getting a job." And I said that for me, quitting was never an option. And maybe I have this kind of mindset because I basically was never an employee before. So I started my first business at 22, straight after my bachelor's degree. And the reason that I started it and I was looking for different kinds of, opportunities is that I don't know, maybe it's in my blood or something, but I really love a good challenge. And I couldn't imagine myself being contained in a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, I get that. I wonder, how can someone, 'cause it's all well and good for me and you who've been indoctrinated into this entrepreneurial world since we were teenagers / early 20s. But, someone who's not from this world might just listen to what you're saying there and go, well, it's all well and good for you as you're super achieving brain box with 5 degrees and tech startup and all this sort of stuff. But I'm just a normal guy or a normal girl. I don't have this indomitable spirit. I don't have, that's a really indomitable, whatever that word, indomitable. I don't have this unbeatable spirit. And
yeah, but it doesn't matter what it is.
How do I get over it? How do I get over myself? I don't think that I can do that. That's easy for you to say. That first step.
It doesn't matter what you think. You need to ask yourself, okay, if I start trying, what's the worst that can happen to me? Are you going to die? Are you going to, become homeless or something? I mean, if you run this risk, you probably shouldn't start your own business, but you know what I'm saying. And I'll give you an example of my third business, basically the one that I started a few months ago. I set up the whole business in the UK in a matter of 2 days. I found a virtual office address, I registered the company, I set up a business bank account, and it all took me, I don't know, less than £100 and less than 2 days to organize. Creating a business is easier than ever. And especially like with this freelancing economy that we're in at the moment, like you don't need to be so anxious about organizing the whole thing, because like 20 years ago, if you wanted to start a business, you should have rented a place and, bought an inventory, things like that. So now with online products and online services that you can start, like, what's the worst thing that can happen, And like, I think that Tim Ferriss mentions it in his 4-hour work week, mentions that if you're really afraid to take a leap of faith, like literally rate your fear from 0 to 10. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? Is it really that bad? Just put things into perspective, with 0 being like 0 negative consequences and 10 being like losing a limb or something, like what's the worst that can happen? You can start, and you can start working on a business or an idea in your free time. And then this is where time management comes in as well, because people are also conditioned having certain habits and, binge watching Netflix and like every weekend. And then again, you need to ask yourself, do I really need to do this? And you need to evaluate your trajectory and ask yourself, okay, if in 5 years from now, I want to be making 7 figures, if in 5 years from now, I want to buy a Ferrari, like, why am I binge watching Netflix every weekend? Like, it doesn't make any sense, like perhaps you should prioritize your stuff a bit better before saying that it's actually not possible.
I agree. I think assessing the daily actions that you take and then realizing what happens if you roll the clock forward from there is empowering and also scary. It's terrifying in the same breath, right? Because you realize just how many of the things you do don't serve the end result that you actually want.
Exactly.
One thing I've been thinking a lot about recently has been to do with people's trust in their own word. So a lot of the time, people try and enact some form of behavior change. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to be nicer to my partner. I'm going to stop arguing with whatever, spend time on my phone. And a lot of the time, habits and behavior changes don't go tremendously well, and people end up going back to their old modes of operating. And if you do that enough times, it's like if you imagine being friends with someone who always, you'd say, hey, are we meeting at the coffee shop at 1:00? And they'd say, yeah, we're meeting at 1:00. And then you turn up at 1:00 and they're not there. And you're like, well, what happened? Yeah. And you go, oh, yeah, sorry, this thing came up. And you're like, okay, fair enough. And then a couple of weeks later, something else. Okay, so we're meeting at 3:00. Yeah, we're meeting at 3:00. And then they continue to not turn up. Like, think about what would happen there. After time, you would lose faith in your friend's ability to ever do what they say they're going to do. And you have to consider that you're treating yourself like that person. And this is something that I've seen increasingly since lockdown began, because I've had fewer distractions. I've actually been able to keep promises to myself much more effectively, which has raised my own trust in my own word, which means I can then say bigger things to myself and have faith I'll follow through with them. So confidence, brutally and empoweringly, is a feedback loop on both sides. A lack of confidence inspires further lacks of confidence, but increases in confidence inspire increases in confidence. So
yeah, this is how you go from a negative feedback loop to a positive feedback loop of results and then more action. And this is something really great. And I definitely agree with you. I used to have friends that used to be late all the time, so they're not my friends anymore.
Dicks. That's what they're called. They're not called friends. They're called dicks, Elena.
Yeah. And then I totally agree with you that in isolation, you can actually be more accountable if you really can focus on the things that matter to you. And I've been seeing the same thing with myself. Before the lockdown, I wasn't consistent with my workouts, but now I work out every day and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going for a walk or a run like every single day. And it's been amazing, really. And this reinforces it even more. And now I can't wait to get up and actually go for a run.
Well, one thing again to consider there is, if you are thinking, this sounds good, I like the idea of becoming a little bit more motivated, more confidence, building more confidence seems to make sense to me. It's compounding interest. That's one of the key. That's the eighth great wonder of the world, as Warren Buffett called it. But I need to overcome my principal inertia. That first period is always the most uncomfortable in behavior change, because it's when you're putting in all of the effort, all of the discomfort, feeling all of the challenge, and not seeing any results. And unfortunately, that is what happens. So I use this analogy this month. So this is the 20th of May when we're recording this episode. Since the beginning of May until now, I've done more plays on Modern Wisdom than I did in all of 2018.
Oh, wow.
20 days worth of plays, more than 12 months worth of plays. So if I had the mindset that I do now with regards to where I pitch the exposure for the podcast, back then, I'd be like, what am I doing? Why am I putting out an episode a week when it's getting, 1/52nd of what I could get in half a month? That, like, why would I be doing that? But again, like, there's lead measures and there's lag measures. The lead measure will always be uncomfortable. You're going to be getting up early. You're going to be doing, learning things, getting confused online, getting frustrated, realizing that you set the business up with the wrong postcode and having to resend the card back, all of those different things. And you're like, right, okay, that bit sucks. But if it's just single stepping stones, every mistake is just a lesson that you don't repeat, and you just continue to chew through it, you're like, I am making progress. I am getting there, even if I can't see it.
Yeah, this is how you motivate yourself, by realizing that every mistake is a stepping stone for the next thing that you're going to be doing right. And this is how you can achieve big goals as well, by basically breaking them down in smaller and much more likely achievable goals, in order for you to start having some progress and get those dopamine kicks that will trigger the positive feedback loop.
I understand.
This is what I'm telling my customers as well, is that if you have a certain goal in 5 years from now to be making, let's say, 7 figures, this is a very, very abstract goal, and your subconscious mind probably cannot even imagine it. So what you do is you ask yourself, okay, in order for me to achieve this goal, what do I need to achieve in 1 year from now? And then you break this down even further, and you say, okay, in 6 months from now, where do I need to be? How many customers do I need to have in 6 months from now? So what does this mean for my even more short-term goal of 1 month? Okay, so in the next 30 days, I have a solid plan of action. I have 4 weeks, and I need to achieve goal X, Y, and Z. And this is it. And if I don't achieve it, I know that I need to move into a different direction. I know that I need to test out different things. And this is another very, very useful trait in entrepreneurship, is that when you're trying things out and they don't work, it's actually a good thing, because you eliminated an assumption that you had before, and now you know that there is a different direction that you need to go into. Okay, so this is actually so valuable.
Well, I think inevitably, because of what we see of other people's conduct, we see the highlight reel. You don't see the failures, or at least you don't see them that much, unless it's failure/hustle porn, which is quite common, I guess, in Silicon Valley. But you don't see that. So you just presume that your failures is you being an idiot, not a normal byproduct of doing a complex thing in a complex world.
Yeah, my God, the failures that I faced so far, and especially, in my academic career. So when I completed my master's degree and I was looking for PhD projects, I got something like 20 rejections, and some of the rejections that I got them even before applying. So I would just contact the supervisor saying, hi, this is Elena. This is my CV. This is what I did so far. Blah, blah, blah. I want a wet lab project. I really love science. I'm in love with molecular biology, but I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. And, the reply was, yeah, thank you for your consideration, but you don't even need to apply.
Ouch.
Yeah. So true story there. And then I met my current PhD supervisor, and he could just see this spark in me and my passion about what I'm doing, which is driven by the results that I'm seeing and the impact that I could be having into, like patients' lives and, really benefit as many people as possible with my research. And, he trusted me on this. And here we are, I haven't even finished my PhD yet. And I already have over 110 citations or something. It's
amazing.
It's going
Congratulations.
very good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this kind of ties in to self-esteem, certainly. And also one of the reasons that some people might not like to work as hard as they could or put themselves out there, because if you don't bother trying to do something, you always have culpable deniability that you could have made it work but just didn't bother. Whereas if you try and fail, that is a very harsh reflection on your capacity. And because people are unable to detach their sense of self from their sense of success,
yeah,
that is essentially the same as the world telling you you are not worthy. Not that your business just sucked, or you tried to launch a garden center in the middle of coronavirus, or, you know what I mean? Does that mean, perfect example there, someone tries to launch a business, they've been building a coffee shop for the last year and a half, saving up money for the last 5 years, they've retired away into the countryside, create this beautiful coffee shop, ready to launch March 20th, ready to launch, whatever it was, March 22nd, Boris comes in, takes a big sledgehammer and just smashes it through the window. And you're like, okay, does that mean that you suck as a person? Does that mean? No, it means that the world is chaotic and messy. And unfortunately, sometimes you come off on the right side, sometimes you don't. That's why Lady Fortuna was back in your country's ancient days. Yeah. That's why she gave and take, right? It wasn't that you were a loser, it's that you were unfortunate.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what happens is that when you do see those failures and you do connect them to your self-esteem, you actually need to realize that world being a scary place is not the only explanation here, because maybe the world just wants to take care of you and tell you, look, unfortunately, this is not the way it's going to work. Try something else, and then you just keep going. And the way I say it, again, I really love challenges. I do understand that this is not how many people think. Some people are not so comfortable getting out of their comfort zone. But what they need to realize is that if you're sitting on your couch, there is 100% probability that you're not going to make it, you're not going to build your new business by just binge watching Netflix. It's inevitable that you will not succeed, okay? So, if you're really afraid of failure, you're bringing this into your life.
Well, yeah, it's like imagining the worst fear that you can and then manifesting it at the same time. Yeah. If you spend all of your time worrying about whether or not you're going to make something of your short time on this earth, and decide to not change the actions you are taking, you're assuring yourself of your own destruction, or at least assuring yourself that your own nightmare is going to come into reality. It's just, it is hard, right? Because you see the world, you see your place in the world and your capacity and how successful you are or how good you are as a parent, a brother, a business owner, a boss, a leader, whatever it might be. You see these things and you feel like they are an existential label placed on you. This is this symbolic, huge curse or blessing given from the gods. And you're like, I know that that's what it feels like. And trust me, I've been through business as well. I've been through so many neurotic terrible mindset places where I've attached my sense of self-worth to my sense of success and all this sort of stuff throughout, the last 13 years of running businesses, nearly 14 now. And it feels grand and esoteric and like you are attached to the universe somehow, but it's just things happening in life. That's all it is. That's all that anything really is. And, I hope that we're drilling this nail, constantly hitting it with a massive hammer of self-esteem, so that people can realize that they are able to enact change within their life, that their outcomes in their life are under their control.
Exactly. And I think that when you're in this dark place of a negative feedback loop of inaction and failure, and you don't really know how to get inspired, what I find really, really inspirational and interesting is to read a biography of a person that I really admire.
Who like?
Okay. Sorry?
Who like?
Like Elon Musk or Richard Branson. You read their autobiographies and you're just like, it's mind blowing how much action did they take until the thing started working. And when you see examples, when you start training your brain with examples of people that have made it, I think that your mindset will start changing a bit. And again, today it's easier than ever to do this because you just go online and you can listen to audiobooks or listen to podcasts or interviews of great men and women, and then you'll realize that, look, there is actually a different reality out there. Because what happens nowadays is that when you're surrounded with people that do not inspire you, it makes sense that you actually won't take action. And this is why something else very important is to surround yourself with friends and people that have like the mindset that you would like to have more of. Okay. Because when you're in an environment where everyone's on their 9 to 5 and this is their world, and they're going to the pub every Friday night and this is it, and this is what gives them the dopamine kick, like you should ask yourself, okay, so if I do the same things that they're doing, like what are the outcomes that I'll be having? And then you realize that, wait a minute, so this is actually a compromise and I can achieve more if I start having different actions, if I start, reading audio, listening to audiobooks while they're going to the pub, and then, your perspective changes, and then you realize, okay, so this is not everything that's out there for me.
I agree, and especially online, you can find communities of people. Now, it's not just that you have to be in the same location. You can find a Reddit thread or a WhatsApp chat or a sure. YouTube channel or a Discord server or whatever it might be that has some people in there that make you feel like you're speaking to them, right? Or like they're speaking to you. One of the things that I get messages very, very complimentary, probably my favorite type of messages that I receive about the podcast is when people say, hey man, I really enjoy the show. Just wanted to let you know, like, sometimes I feel like I don't have a whole lot of people that think like me wherever I live or that operate in the same sort of headspace. But when I listen to the show, I really feel like you get me. I feel like we think in the same sort of a way. So, and the people that are listening might be like, I don't know what you're on about, Chris. I just listen because you got a funny accent. But if, no matter why it is that you have the opportunity to find someone that speaks to you, that might be Tim Ferriss. That might be the girls from Pretty Little Thing. That might be Peter Crouch, the footballer. Whatever it is, the more that you align yourself with people who have words that land with you rather than words that just go past you, I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah, and what happens when your environment is not really motivating you is that you have all those stereotypes and labels in there because people just reinforce what's familiar for them. And if you won't get out of those stereotypes of behavior that they do define their community by, like, it will be very, very hard for you to change your actions because you will be criticized if you're doing something else. And I must comment here is that you're absolutely right that bad friends are probably like worse than no friends. I'm very eclectic with my time, and I gotta tell you, I don't have a lot of friends. And Naval has commented on how precious his time is once, saying that he doesn't do non-transactional meetings, meaning that if there is no concrete value coming out of a meeting or a coffee, he's not going to meet a person. An email or a phone call is enough. And before even it escalates to a phone call, he'll vet very, very well whether this person is worth their time. And I think that once you set a certain value for your time, saying that, and he actually said that at the beginning of his career, he was constantly evaluating his time in terms of even the smallest tasks that he had to do. So if he had to do an Amazon return for like $10, like it wasn't worth like an hour of his time because he could generate more money in this hour. Okay. So this is a very, very good kind of vetting of your time. You just need to, again, be very objective and ask yourself, do I really need to spend my time on A and B and C? And unfortunately, this could include some friends that, you can't really, talk about the things that matter to you. That could be business or philosophy or something that could elevate your mind and, can make you feel that this meeting is useful in some way.
Yeah, it's the crazy thing as well is to consider that some people find that group of friends straight away. Like, that's mad to me, the fact that, you just happen to stumble by chance, let's call it what it is. Like you live in halls of residence, which is randomly assigned next to some person that ends up being your best mate for the rest of time. I feel very fortunate. My business partner, I sat next to my business partner of 13 years in my first ever seminar. Like it's just by chance. But
this is amazing.
Conversely, as you've hit the nail on the head there, having friends for the sake of having friends, if they don't bring you up and perhaps even bring you down, if you go away from people feeling like your mind is degraded, you would genuinely be better off on your own. And I think this is one of the few times where introverts have a competitive advantage. I've been talking about this recently to do with COVID, that usually in almost all situations, extroverts tend to have a competitive advantage because they're easier to socialize. They can put more time in with people. That means that they can compound their networking effect more quickly. However, there's a few particular situations in which introverts end up having a competitive advantage. And one of them is in being more frugal with their time and not wasting it on people that they don't value. And the other one is when they have to become their own disciplinarians and work on their own, by their own. And that's obviously happened in COVID as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see myself as a phenotypic extrovert. So
what's that? That sounds like a kind of mushroom.
No, it's not a mushroom. So phenotype, it's a term in genetics that basically is like how something is seen, basically. So in a cell, it would be the morphology, the shape of the cell. So this is the cell phenotype.
Yep.
So neurons would have long axons. This is the neuronal phenotype.
Okay.
So I call myself a phenotypic extrovert because I'm very comfortable with socializing and, like having a lot of friends. But actually, I do enjoy my alone time. And I think that this also has to do with your self-esteem. So it all comes back with being comfortable, being with yourself, basically. Because what we see in a lot of extroverts is they actually they cannot stand being alone, and they just need a company to fill this void because they have nothing to offer to themselves and they don't really know how to cope with this. And for this reason, I mean, this is not always the case, obviously, but you get what I'm saying here. And I think that this is also an art to be self-sufficient. And this is something that definitely gives an entrepreneur an unfair advantage, whether they are an introvert or an extrovert.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel for extroverts who are uncomfortable having the amount of time on their own that they need to do the introspective work and reflection required to develop themselves. Again, to the introverts out there, that is your competitive advantage. The fact that you're perfectly fine spending a whole day with just yourself is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reflect on you, the way that you operate, to read a book and sit and just think about it for 10 minutes while you make yourself a cup of coffee or whatever it might be. Because you, in a different version, the extrovert version of you, would be ringing a friend while they make the coffee. They'd be FaceTiming someone while they make a coffee. Whereas to you, to the introvert, that feels like absolute hell, and you just want to make your coffee in peace. Okay, so use that time. You have the opportunity to use this time, and to start sort of looping it back to what we said at the beginning. So you talked about the fact that self-esteem is the foundation, that you need to believe that you are worth more than you are. You need to relate your current outcomes to your current actions. What was next? What came after that?
It's basically the ability to keep on iterating and just keep on going and trying different things, because this is how you will inevitably succeed one day, when you'll find the perfect kind of product market fit. This is a term from Silicon Valley where, a product goes viral, basically. So you just need to try different things to see what sticks best. And this is how it's done. And to comment on what you said previously, is that sometimes we do hear those success stories of entrepreneurs, and you have the people that knew them back from high school or something saying, he or she was just such a quiet child, and we had no idea, this overnight success is really came out of nowhere. No, it wasn't overnight success. It was the fact that this person was comfortable just to be focused on their goals.
I think as well the iterating on projects is an important one, because it brings us back to seeing failures as a lesson, not as a comment on your self-worth, which again keeps your self-esteem, your confidence robust to the inevitable challenge that you're going to come up against. So we've got that. We've got the fact you need to continue iterating. We've got the fact that you might need to change your tribe and your social circle in order to give you better influence, so that you start to give yourself room. Even it doesn't even necessarily need to be, and this is the negative, neutral, positive of friendships, it doesn't even necessarily need to be someone that brings you up. Just having someone that doesn't bring you down is a great start. That person that's always negative, that's always saying, always comparing themselves, keeping up with the Joneses, terrible with money, terrible with keeping promises, always late for their meet. Someone that's late all the time, it's such a warning sign as a friend, because it literally just says, my time is worth more than your time. What does that say about the rest of your friendship?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So, when you'll be in a difficult situation, how will this friend behave, and will they even help you, So it's this matter of accountability and trustworthiness.
Got you. So any final pearls of wisdom or things that people can take away from this? Anything that you want to leave people to part with? Okay.
So there is a saying that you probably have heard before, and it's just be yourself. Okay. And what they forget to add is that you need to be the best version of yourself. Okay. So you can't just be in your boring self that never gets out of your comfort zone and then expecting everyone to like you and then being angry that this advice didn't work. So instead of focusing on external circumstances, my advice would be to always focus on yourself and your self-improvement. Just keep on honing those skills that will inevitably give you the results that you want.
I love it. Elena, really, really cool. I think there's an interesting discussion to be had about what our true self is anyway. I thought about this morning. So if someone gets a nose job, plastic surgery on their nose, is that nose still their nose? And you can kind of see self-development as an internal version of that. It's like, well, how much of the things that I make my new self do, my new ways of seeing the world, ways of operating, if I develop a new morning routine and start meditating, am I then is meditation still me? Is that me as a meditator? How does it work? And it's an interesting sort of philosophical question actually to ask that. And if anyone that's listening that has an answer to that, whether or not having a nose job is still your nose, and then the same whether or not doing behavior change makes you more of you or less of you, I'd love to find out the answer to that. So let me know. Elena, where can people go? They want to find out more about Guild of Growth or check you out online. Where do they go?
Yeah, sure. So they go on the website, it's guildofgrowth.com. And then we have a Facebook and an Instagram page as Guild of Growth. I also enjoy microblogging on Twitter. So they can find me by my name. So it's Elena Seranova, Seranova. And yeah, this is it. I would be happy to get in touch.
Cool. I will link everything in the show notes below, Guild of Growth and Elena's Twitter. Go and hassle her on there if you want to talk about self-development and self-esteem and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. Elena, it's really, really great. I look forward to, or I hope that you see the final year of your academics off and you can get this PhD knocked out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Catch you later on.